So, so I'm just welcoming you all because this is a kitchen party. So it's going to go on over the next 2 hours, and some people will come in and some people will go. So we'll probably use the agenda that I am going to re-put in our chat over and over again. So I just like to start off by making sure everyone feels welcome. And maybe we can just start off by saying as a kitchen party that I'm going to ask us to check in with a name. Where are you? So everybody else knows. And what are you cooking up that's tasty? And then we'll have some sharing. If people get like too many people come on, then I'll use some breakout rooms. But as long as we have this number of people, then we can continue to have the plenary session. And I am recording it, so just let everybody know that as they come in. So maybe we can just start. Welcome to my kitchen. And I'll ask if we can just start with Joan. Joan, you're very used to these kinds of conversations and reunions because you've been with me probably the longest of all the people I can see on the screen right now. So tell us where you are and what are you cooking up that's tasty?
Okay. Well, I'm right on the west coast of Canada towards the US border, about maybe 10 minutes away. And it's a kind of a stormy time right now for us with lots of wind and rain. What am I cooking up? Well, what I'm cooking up is thinking about cooking up is a rhubarb pudding, because I've got lots of rhubarb in my garden. And I'm just going to go down today and cut some rhubarb, make this sponge pudding. That's what I'm cooking up.
Yum. Thank you.
And,
no, I will just start. We won't do the whole agenda all at once. It's a kitchen party, so we'll keep using tidbits, and so just invite everybody else to start checking in. Annalise, would you like to check in and tell us where you're calling in from and what are you cooking up? And that could be something that's beyond food. It could be something that you're making.
Yeah, thank you for that invitation. I got you. I'm Annelies. I'm calling in from the Netherlands, Vreeland. It's also called Peaceland. Close to the river, we had big thunder, big rains. And that was after almost 30 days. So we're very happy with that. I'm cooking on something that's called the Mad Hatter Summit. And it's a reimagining program where we want to make this paradigm shift from mental health and all what is involved to mental wealth. So it's an inquiry, and yeah, I'm really, really hooked on it because it's a process we do with Alice in Wonderland, and so inspiring to me and to other people. So I'm in the middle of organizing that. It will happen at the 12th of August. And well, it's all in stream, so I'm happy. And it's cooking.
Thank you, Annalise. Welcome, everyone. So as you check in, I'm Marilyn Hamilton. I'm the founder of Integral City Meshworks. And it's so wonderful to see your faces. And I'm just trying to organize our Christmas party in a very gentle way, inviting everybody who checks in to just see in our kitchen here. Let us know what your name is, where are you located, and what are you cooking up? You might be cooking with real food, like I remember Roberto loves to cook with real food, but you might also be cooking up designs and ideas and relationships and organizations. So whatever it is that you're cooking up. I had a fantastic day today. I started out with a morning session that brought me into connection with the people here at Findhorn. And then I went on and had an online session with a systemic constellation today. And so there's just a whole bunch of things that are cooking up both here at Findhorn and around the world. So next person I'll invite is Alicia. And maybe you could tell others even what's your connection to Integral City, because not everybody has the same connection.
Good morning for me in my time zone. I'm in Sacramento, California, and Marilyn and I go back a number of years. I think Maybe 2015, we did some sessions together at the Integral Theory Conference. But I think we knew each other before that. So I don't know where our journey started, but I'm grateful that it's here and always loving to hear about your work and what you're up to. So what am I cooking up? Let's see. Some of you know I do business consulting, which is very fun and rewarding. But what I really want to be cooking, and I'm in the process of kind of baking it, I guess you could say, mixing it up, is tapping into the knowingness of organizations. How can we listen to the system itself, either speaking through its employees or leaders, and even speaking to us directly through intuition or other ways of knowing. So what I'm cooking up is a way to blend my professional background with this more kind of subtle energy work.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're so welcome. So nice to see you again. I was really longing as I sent in my invitation to see everybody that I sent the invitations to. So thanks for coming for this solstice celebration. Hey, John Clausen. I wasn't expecting actually that somebody in my connections with you would turn up, but it's wonderful to see you here.
I have no idea. I have no idea what a kitchen party is, but
Oh, come on. You've
I'm getting an
created
idea.
many.
I'm getting an idea. So my connection with Integral is through my connection with Maryland, and I'm sort of here to learn more about Integral cities. I'm on the East Coast of the United States in Connecticut, and I run a public foundation. I'm on quite a lot of boards and councils. So what am I cooking up? I'm cooking up an anniversary celebration for my wife and I, because we have a 3-day anniversary cycle of the last 3 days, but we're actually going to celebrate tomorrow because these last 3 days have been too busy. I'm cooking up a bunch of grants to make to a variety of Findhorn projects, probably within the next month. We're cooking up a big event for Ross Jackson at Findhorn in October, 3 days of big celebrations and purposeful meetings. And there's some debate about whether it's worth people flying in, to get quite a few people. And so how to handle the large amount of people that we were expecting, whether that's appropriate. And we're cooking up a community day for the evolutionary leaders in September.
Oh, wow.
So that's me.
Oh, that's beautiful. And, one of the ways I know John is because he's part of the Friends House here at Findhorn. So there's many people that come and go from the Friends House. And I know it's a really valuable opportunity for people to spend longer periods of time here. And one of the most beautiful eco neighborhoods of our place that we were so surprised would end up on the IPCC front page of their report in 2022.
That house might be on it, and it's available for rent for December, January, February of this coming year.
Kitchen parties are always about sharing. So yeah, take advantage of that. So Roberto, you're next on my screen, and it's so wonderful to see you again. How are you doing? And tell us where you are and what are you cooking up?
Hola, Marlene. I am fine. I'm so happy to be here and looking at faces, old friends, Liliana, Amanda, how are you? And I'm in Mexico, north of Mexico, and I am still cooking the network of networks, that project. I'm still working on that. And it's been slowly moving, but it's coming. New people in the project, and we are about to get into a new phase in September. So very, very happy about it.
That's wonderful. I miss you when I'm joining Indra Adnan and some of her calls still, because she used to join us there too. And she was going to try coming today, but she's double booked. So I'm sure that she would love for me to say, say hi to Roberto when he comes into the kitchen.
Yeah, I saw Indra yesterday. I went into one of the spaces that we
in the incubator, in the
incubator,
politics
exactly.
Incubator, right?
Exactly there.
Oh, that's great. That's nice to know you're there as well. So somebody else who I know connects with Indra is Amanda, and I do know she's actually a master of kitchen parties and designs many herself, but they're often out in her allotment garden. And if I didn't have my background behind me would be a beautiful dried flower arrangement that she sent me from her allotment last year that I actually visited in person. So Amanda, just tell us where you are, where this mysterious allotment in your location is, and what are you cooking up these days?
Hello. I'm in the beautiful Knaresborough that Marilyn came to visit last year. And I've got a lot on our menu, lots of different projects. And I think the most exciting conversations today have been around donuts, making some donuts. And, what we're going to do for International Donut Day on the 13th of November. So that's super fun. And also another one close to my heart is working with the eco villages in Ukraine and what we can do to support them. So that's really, yeah, so lots of wonderful projects going on. Today is my son's birthday, so I wanted to pop in here and give you my love and celebrate the solstice. But I might pop out to spend dinner with him. Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine, because the kitchen party is going to ebb and flow, and we don't know how many people at any given time. It might become completely unmanageable, and then we'll have a bit of chaos, which we're all up for. Yes, yes.
Okay.
So happy birthday to your son.
Yeah.
And congratulations on all of the special connections and funding that you got through your Knaresborough project. I was just with Puran Desai last week in the Eco City Builders Conference. Yes.
Yeah, brilliant.
So yeah, so I know that's a connection for you too. You should tell everybody, what did you call your location there in Knaresborough?
Yes. Well, inspired by you, it's called The Hive, for
Right.
heart-led intentional visions for Earth or the environment. So we have a Hive Hub, an Eco Hub, and the allotment is our other location here. And the concept for it is being adopted by, within an educational program. So in Shanghai and Barcelona, and the conversations with Ukraine looking to adopt elements of it. So yes, the Hive is inspiring from
that's
beyond.
That's beautiful, and your connections with Ukraine sound very inspiring. We've
Cool.
actually got Ukrainians here at Findhorn because we had some extra housing that was available. And also I know through the Global Eco Village networks in Ukraine that have you seen that video that's called, I think, The Green Silk Road?
Yes.
Yes, and it's really inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah.
So well done.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. So stay as long as you can. And
I might pop off in a minute. I can hear the kids bouncing around.
Okay. Well, that's always been traditional in your calls anyway. So always glad. Say hi to the kids too.
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay. Hi. Hey, and I see somebody else who knows you. Liliane, what have you been up to? Where are you located these days? And what are you cooking up?
I would be like Amanda saying there's a lot on the stovetop. And below in the bake area is like on top and the bottom is like incredible things. I am in Greece. I'm in Athens since Christmas holidays. I've forgotten how long I have been here, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is. And the transition from US, whether it is short-term or long-term, it's always a challenge. So I'm navigating this on many levels. And one thing I know is that I would really, really like to start visiting some of the eco villages and more of the transition town actual locations. I think the aspect of big cities, I cannot do big cities anymore. So this is on the personal level, and then on the not personal level and community level, a lot of around climate and community health. A lot of projects both here and United States that have to do with health, well-being of the community amidst the chaos and the let's say primarily the climate change impact, but of course there are many layers even within.
Yes, well, it's wonderful to hear. Well, wonderful to see you. The last time I saw you was in a ULab, and you were working with Otto Scharmer. Are you still doing that work now that you're in Greece?
No, I haven't been too much with Otto Scharmer. I have been more with the Pocket Project than Otto Scharmer. Yeah, with Thomas Hubel, I have been studying quite a bit.
Okay, wonderful. And is there something in particular that you're working with the Pocket Project? Are you bringing it to Greece?
I don't think so. But if there is a lab that happens with the Balkans, I can see that more of a possibility. But in Greece, I don't think we are there yet.
It's interesting. Not all places are in the same place, are they? Some are more ready than others. And so it's really a discernment that we need in order to know what's next. What is it to cook up next? Yeah.
Indeed,
So
indeed.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Liliane. Hey, Ellen, I see you're here, and can you tell us where you are and what are you cooking up? Not everybody knows about your life maps, and so our kitchen party is just kind of flowing through. I've been in your kitchen, so I know you know how to do a kitchen party. So we don't know how long people will stay, so we're just kind of starting up now with who's here and sharing where we are and what you're cooking up.
Yes. First of all, I've just been mopping the floor because after 2 months of dry weather, we have some enormous rain showers. So I had a little bit in the house. So I just put on a clean shirt, so to say.
And where are you located, Ellen? That this is
near Utrecht, near the center of the Netherlands.
Right.
In the grasslands.
If I recall, you have a canal that goes right by your house.
Yes. So yes, it's a bit of a special moment for me in when unity and peace is concerned, and the 99 days. I have been much inspired by the whole process over the last couple of years. And I was participating in a group to prepare for events. And I found that I had to choose my own path, representing the self, and the self as the center. And to discover together using life maps everything that is collective, because I feel and I experience myself that we have lost a lot of inner knowledge and practices and thinking and acting about what is collective. And I'm going to my heart, and then I forget my flow of my words. So what I was saying, it's quite a special moment. So I'm withdrawing, but I'm working from the self, grounded. So from the bottom up, I'm doing small things at the moment, a little bit of publishing little messages about unity and about how you can ground your life in unity, how you can create a life really from unity and your core values. And I will do a weekly call during the 99 days.
This is sorry for interrupting. This is the 99 days in the World Unity Week between unity and peace. Is that right?
Yes, and that's unity and peace are really core part of my core. So in a wave that is more earthly, so to say, I hope to attract people to work with me, to work together and discover more about what is the collective and how you can live as a human being as a member of the human hive and as a global citizen.
Wonderful. Ellen, I'd invite you to put your life maps link in the chat if you'd like, so other people can discover your beautiful website and see how much you've really developed that. Annalise and Sue Cooper and Lorraine Reeds-Terrio and myself, when I'm available, have all been working with Ellen on unity and on peace and just using our own lives to restory that. And so it's been really interesting, and thanks so much for creating a very, I think, inspiring process, Ellen. Thank you. And thanks for coming to the kitchen party. I see a few other people that I haven't seen for quite a long time. I see Diana Smith. Wow, what are you doing, Diana? And where are you located these days? And maybe you can tell people, like, how did you get connected to Integral City? Because when I sent out my invitations, they went far and wide, and I can already see that I've been surprised at people who've been able to turn up. So Diana, lovely to see you. What are you cooking up these days?
Well, in terms of where I am, the place I'm in is in Guelph, which is about an hour outside of Toronto. So kind of in the center of the North American capitalist industrial complex, and also at the same time connected to many initiatives that are transforming and shifting how we see ourselves collectively. Marilyn and I met 20 years ago, probably, on the West Coast, more than that, 25 years ago. And I've always continued to deeply grateful for the spirit of inquiry and discovery that you have, Marilyn, and that I think many of us share. These days, I'm interested in the containers that we have created for our initiatives. And there are other people certainly looking at that, but I'm really questioning and inquiring into some of the assumptions we've had, that you need to join, you need to donate, you need to become a member. There are many things like that which feel to me are in the process of being reimagined. And I don't know where that'll go, but I think it's happening now, that we are connecting at a different level that is beyond traditional form and structure, and we are doing that across boundaries, and I find that incredibly exciting.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Diana. And I'll just share with the others. Well, we go back to a food-initiated organization that we used to call the Ginger Group. And Diana, if you're living in Guelph now, which is a different location than I last thought you were in Ontario, that's also got a strong association with Findhorn, because that's where Dorothy McLean grew up. And my best friend from university still lives there.
Where I live.
So you must live on Spring Street, because that's where she grew up, 40 Spring Street. Yes, that's really exciting. Yes, yes. And I went there and took pictures of it, of that place, and brought them back and shared them with Dorothy before she turned 100. Yeah, yeah. So it's lovely to see you on the call. Thanks for coming in. So I'm going to call on Raza. She hasn't got her video on. And if she can hear me, she can turn the video on. And I was so hoping you would turn up, Raza. So nice to see you. Let everybody know where you are and what have you been cooking up?
It's very hot where I am, so I'm currently in Germany. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm in Germany at the moment. My niece and nephew are somewhere in the background screaming, so I hope you cannot hear them.
No, we can't.
Yeah, what I'm cooking, nothing. I just came in to say hi. I'm still preparing my ingredients, really, I think. So I'm still exploring, really, what's mine to do. I spent a lot of time in Lithuania, and yeah, the readiness for a lot of things are not there. So I kind of resonate with Lilian. And Lilian, if you are in Athens, are you going to stay in Athens for a while? Oh, great, because it would be really nice, because I will be there, and I lived in Athens for like 8 years. So it'd be really nice to start meeting people in person.
I will email you afterwards.
Great.
Great, good, good.
Just to connect and see maybe why things don't work.
So Rosa, I remember you were also using life maps for a while too. You were working with Ellen. Anything that you've been able to discover about that?
I think we're still working on it. So I see Ellen every week. So
Oh, good.
On Zoom. So I think there's still a lot again to explore. And yeah, that's where I am. Still trying to answer most probably what's mine to do in all of this. So, and it's good not to lose track of what's happening in this space, and sort of hear what other people are up to, and I don't know, get some inspiration maybe.
Well, I'm glad to see you, because I would think that both Lithuania and Germany have changed a lot in the last couple of years, just with the immigration and refugees and the challenges that everyone faces, no matter what side of the border you're on. Yeah.
Yeah, things are changing, and well, we'll see, because yes, things are changing rapidly.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah. So there might be other priorities at the moment, but we'll see. I don't give up. I'm just kind of seeing what's happening, what's unfolding, and where you can actually connect to. So
okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm glad you turned up and making some connections already with old friends. Great. So I'm going to call next on Gail Taylor. And I'm so happy to see you join us for the kitchen party, Gail. And I don't know if you can outdo Diana Smith. We might have known each other even longer. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I first read your book years and years ago. I think when it first came out. When did it come out?
2008.
Well, that's when I read it. So, and just really connected with it. Lived at that time in a tiny community, not even incorporated in Northern California, in Mendocino County. And but I've always been interested in cities, and now live back in Kansas City, which is where I was born. And in terms of why I showed up today, I saw meshworking on my calendar. And that is a word that has meant so much to me. I've used it, explored it, worked to understand it, to work with it. And so I saw meshworking, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm going. I quit everything else I was doing and jumped online. Here in Kansas City, Missouri, where I live today, we won the World Cup for 2026. And that is an extraordinary, according to all the media, happening. We're expected to have many millions of people come during a 3-week period. But what's exciting to me, because I couldn't care less about, I care a lot about basketball, but not necessarily soccer, but everything that's happening is happening for the good of the community. So the streetcars, which are always free, are extending out. The buses are improving themselves. We're creating more green spaces. And so as far as I can see, this an implosion of money that's coming in, and the work that we're doing to prepare ourselves for this supposedly wonderful event, is pulling the city together in really interesting ways. And I find that it's all things that most people agree with. We're creating a south loop over the freeways, and the buses are extending, and the communities are organizing, and the libraries preparing, and it's just kind of exciting to have a middle-sized city, but one that's been trying to improve. And while all of this is happening, we have record numbers of homicide. We are a red state that is very divided and hardly can get anything done. But we have a wonderful mayor and city council, and we're taking advantage of that. And so, so here I am.
Well, I'm glad you
learning
joined us.
About cities.
I think I missed what you said in 2026 was at the NBA.
No, it's the soccer, World Soccer.
Oh, soccer, not
World
football,
Cup soccer.
not basketball, but World Cup soccer.
Right.
Okay, yes, that's big. Europeans would see that as very big.
Yes.
And yes, so that is big. And one of the things I think I learned from my husband, who was a an athlete, that sports can be very uniting. It's actually one of the ways I started to work with in Abbotsford in British Columbia, where I lived, because I became a vice president of a pre-Olympic event for a vice president of volunteers, which meant working with 6,000 people as we pulled together this event for Western Canada. And it opened up my eyes as to how much you can change for the good in the city. So I encourage you to continue leaning into that if you don't get a goal, you know.
Yeah, right. I haven't watched much soccer, but the way they bounce these balls off their head and do this kind of stuff is just amazing to watch.
And women's soccer is really good too. Watch for that.
We have a women's soccer team that we just bought, and so we're building a stadium right out my window.
Oh wow!
For the world for women's soccer. Team's called Current.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gail. And now I see on my screen, and probably everybody else, if you've got a gallery, there's a mysterious person called Brenda's Otter. And I'm going to see if she will also open up her video. And if not, I will say goodbye to Brenda, because I'm not sure who it is. Not somebody able to hear, so yes. Okay, so these days with Zoom, you just never know, as most of you who have to manage online courses or programs or gatherings know. So I hope if Brenda was somebody that I really did know, that they will come back in and ask my apology, and I will be happy to give it. Those of you who have come later in the kitchen party, thanks everyone for checking in, and we may have others who join us. So I'm just going to open up a few more questions that I had for the agenda. And I'd be very curious if you'd like to share about some of the things that we've been using in Integral City for a long time, like the 4 voices. Who are the 4 voices in your kitchen? Or are you doing any care ma cooking? Have you got things that you're caring for self and for others, place or planet? I'd just love to know if you would be willing to share how you might be putting to use some of the things that you've learned through the Integral City frameworks, whether you were just reading a book or whether you've taken a course or whether you've been a neighbor like John. So I'll just leave this to be completely popcorn style, and you can just open your mics when you feel like you'd like to share.
There's something I would like to comment. It's more a matter of mindset. So for me, wherever I go, or wherever there is a group meeting, or there is a community initiative and there are questions answered, there is something in me that I always ask, most of the times outwardly too. how is everyone represented here? And this has become completely integral in how I'm thinking. Are all the voices here right now? And if not, is there room for them, or it's a different kind of scenario, in which case I don't get more involved, which is interesting. Along with silos, I have an issue with silos. I am very open about it. And this is another thing, the inclusion aspect.
Beautiful, Lilian. Thanks for sharing that. You know, that's one of the lessons I learned very early on, that I relate to energy. So I'm glad you look for the 4 voices, but I always remember to notice where is the energy. So if there isn't energy, then I also will tend to step back, because if there's no energy for change, then I don't think I have something to offer. I can wait around for a while to hear it or notice it, but that's something that I also keep in the back of my mind. So thanks for sharing that. Who else has something to share?
Well, I have something to share too. Sometimes you have to endure, even when there's no energy, and stick in the not knowing. I feel that. And if I'm really feeling that I'm in the wrong place, then of course my feet will bring me somewhere else, because mostly I go barefooted. But that's not very integral so far. The one thing I like about the maps of Marilyn is that I can use them in my process now, and the 4 voices are one of them, plus one, the evolutionary impulse. So these 4 voices I work now with are people who are involved in this Mad Hatter Summit, and it is about people, the I, who am I in this process, the people who are suffering from the mental health systems we have right now, but also want to do something and be something in the turning around of that. And then, of course, there are people who are experts, like psychiatrists. There are people who are like the institutions we also need also for some funding. And then there are the invisible ones, who are maybe the rethinkers, the reimaginers, the representing the grassroots. Yeah, I believe that Alice in Wonderland is the cultural, the not so visible, a shapeshifter here. Maybe that's important. And I do not know where she belongs yet in the voices, but I gave you 3, I think, and the 4th one I will think about. Normally, I would say the 4th voice was the grassroots, because they really are going into something that is not visible yet. But well, I'm open for suggestions. It's all about reimagining mental health. Thank you for listening.
Hey, thank you, Annalise. I think it's really important what you're doing, and I love the idea of having Alice in Wonderland and the Mad Hatter Summit. All the summits that we're having seem to be so serious, so Mad Hatter sounds very appealing to me. And before I invite others of you to keep sharing, I notice we have somebody new who's joined us in the kitchen, Carissa Kazis. Hey, welcome, Carissa. And so I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself. You haven't met everybody, but you know a few of the faces here. And let us know where you are, and maybe where you found out about the kitchen party, or why you turned up to say hi to me. And what are you cooking up, Carissa?
Well, thanks, Marilyn. I just felt really drawn to come on. So, and I had this little slice of time to come in, so I thought I would drop in. I'm in Nanaimo on Vancouver Island, Canada. And I think I'm like a little tangential to the city context, but one of the things that I've been working with is something called AINS, and it's an event that we've been hosting in Vancouver, where we're bringing together people across a very broad spectrum of how people are feeling about AI. And we had, at our last event, we had different scales there and collaborations, but what we really wanted was a very human way of talking about it. So we sat in circle with yoga mats, and we had different ways of connecting and being present to the mystery in each other, and allowing for the voices to be really heard in the room in a way that then I think supported a little bit of emergence at the end. So I often think back to my ginger group days, and there's some ginger group people here who I had no idea, you know, I guess it's been like 15, 20 years how much I would be impacted by the seeds that were planted. Also, you know, with you, Marilyn, back then, I feel like something is just starting to kind of bear fruit in me now, which is really exciting. I don't know what you guys were talking about, but that's one of the threads.
That's beautiful, Carissa. Yes. Well, you brought up AI. What does the NS stand for?
AI and us.
And
So,
us. And AI
us.
and us. Oh, I like that. Sounds
So
very friendly.
It's like there's AI and there's HI. AI and human intelligence.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. And now it's getting kind of cross-pollinated. So are we sure which direction it's going? I was at 3 conferences in the last month. One was the Integral Europe Conference. Another one was called Constructing Consciousness. And the third one was the Eco City Builders. And every conference had some discussion or a session on AI. And some were very technical, and others were kind of like much more invitational. And it was the ones that were more dialogic that were really attractive and appealing. And they did seem to me like they had a lot more opportunity to actually make AI something that is a natural evolutionary outcome of our intelligence being brought down that path or attracted down that path.
There's a lot of people who are, or there's, I would say, a steady group of people who are very interested in how to do this well. And I think for me, there's like the freak out factor and the how to do this well factor in a continual holding both. Because even among the people who want to do this well, there's a lot at stake if it doesn't go well. And so holding both is, and I think it actually feels good to sit in the middle of that, because that's how things feel on the planet right now anyways. For me.
Yeah, thanks, Carissa. I was going to confess something else to others who might not know it. So Carissa is of an age that when I first met her, I said it was okay to call me Auntie M. So I said a long time ago, well, oh, by the way, I saw Cindy Lou Golan at the Integral Europe Conference. Some of you would know her. And she was introducing me to somebody else. And she said, oh, and this is Marilyn Hamilton. And she's one of the original badass integralists. And I went, wow, I've finally been promoted. I'm a badass integralist. And I couldn't actually say what a terrible influence that would have been to say all of the people who, when I first started in the integral movement and there was younger members of the families, I would say, well, you can call me Auntie M. Or to those who were in just a completely different generation than me. And I said, well, that was the way that I wanted to relate. I thought that the integral movement needed some aunties in it. And I nominated myself as the first one. So,
Carissa. And I just have a little story if I can share. So Marilyn, I asked Marilyn to give a blessing at my wedding, my integral Auntie M, to give a blessing. And she did not just give one blessing. She wrote out in her integral hive mind 12 blessings, 12 or 13. There's like, I don't remember how many. I think it was like 12 blessings. And they each were like talking to a different aspect of integral. And a different aspect of, I don't even know if that's true to say integral. I don't know what inspired all of them for you, but every year when my husband and I celebrate our anniversary, we just celebrated our 10th year anniversary, we pull out one of the blessings and we read it. It's yes, so I wanted to share that with you.
That's beautiful.
In a very yeah.
So Kitchen Party Confessions, I actually was there at the moment that Carissa saw her husband for the very first time. I saw the eyes meet. Yes, do you remember? That was in, it was in have to think of the name of the conference. In the Okanagan. In the Okanagan.
You were there?
Yes.
I forgot that you were there.
Yeah, we were sharing a room actually. You weren't in it very
often. That's so funny. It all became about him. That's a great reminder.
See, that's what inspired the blessings. Yeah. So so I see that our kitchen party is moving on a little bit, and thanks, Carissa, for sharing your introduction. And so I invite others of you who would like to share about how you've been using the Integral City frameworks or any ideas that you got, maybe not just from me, but because you were in a course with somebody else. I'd just love to know how that's working out for you. You might even be curious about somebody else who's on the screen and you want to ask them a question, and that's good too. Lean on the kitchen counter and see who wants to see who you just would love to know a little bit more about.
I've been using the word meshworking a lot, as I mentioned earlier. And I've recently read James Bridle's book, Ways of Being, Plants, Animals, and Technology, and how we put all of the intelligence together, that everything, every living thing has intelligence. And thinking about the meshwork, when we ourselves see ourselves as nature and include these other intelligences. And this morning I read about how bees have consciousness. And it's like, you know, we're learning so much now about the different animals, and we should not be asking how we understand their intelligence, because we never will. But we can see it and we can feel it, and we can test it and do all of these different things. But you know, cities in many ways have been animals have had to escape from cities and have not been invited into cities. In the last few years, birds are invited back in, to falcons and birds that will kill the pigeons and things like this. But basically, until the COVID, animals were not very welcome in cities. And yet it's such an important part of humaning well, I think. And so they came pouring back in cities during the COVID. They just populated cities like crazy. And it's like, we belong here too. So I'm just thinking, as we think about cities and think about stewardship and rethinking cities, how we're including all of this other intelligence, AI being one of them, as James talks about, into our thoughts, and how we meshwork with that variety.
Thanks, Gail. You've hit me, of course, in a very sweet spot. The meshworking was always a word that fascinated me. And I first learned it from Don Beck. And he was always a little irked that I sort of not only embraced it, but managed to put it into the name of my organization, Integral City Meshworks. But, you know, it isn't just unidirectional how we have influenced each other, you know, just looking at the faces on this call. When you recommended that book, Ways of Being, I went out and got it. I don't actually try to get physical books these days, but it's right behind me on my table. And it's all marked up and written through, because I was very interested in the ways of being that James Bridle explored. And I really feel, of course, he had a good chapter or a good chunk of chapter on bees, which everybody knows that I would zero in on and see what he had to say. But I also thought it was really interesting to try and imagine what does the city look like through another being's senses and intelligence. And you're right that I think that one of the unintended consequences, the gifts of the pandemic when we closed the cities down, was how quickly non-human life moved back in. And so I really feel that's something that I really worry about, as I saw today something that scandalized me, that was the number of airplanes that two different air organizations in India had ordered. One 450 and the other 500 just in India alone. Wow, what does that mean? I just feel frustrated sometimes when we're looking at things like the research that we've gained on climate and carbon neutrality and not just human life, but all life on Earth. So anybody else share these like nagging?
Just have to share that on my table today, suddenly, I do not know, do you still have this in books? Because
yes,
you do.
Yes, it's a bookmark.
It's a bookmark, I know, and it says Integral City Meshworks, and it reminds me of it was an attractor to me anyway, especially for the Meshworks. Yeah, I have listened to you before about being in action, but also raising our energies. And our energies, I feel that in this moment where I cannot cope with the frustration or something, I raise my energy. And now I'm on top of the mountain. I'm sitting on top of the mountain listening to you for the airplanes, because it might shift something in our, in our rippling out. Not so much as part of the meshworks, but certainly for sure in the subtle realms. And this is what I still believe. This for me is so powerful. This evolutionary impulse and this trust in that. And I cannot hold back on that anymore. I speak out on that with everything I do, even if I co-create or I try to mesh, weave, and I ask for anyone if they're willing to work with, what we want to call it, but the knowing field or the spirit. So many words used for it, and there's a lot of discernment on that, but I step up on that, and this is what I wanted to bring in. It's so important for me now, also to stand for that. And
Thank you, Annalise, for bringing in the knowing field. That's something else I've already done today too. I spent a 2-hour systemic constellation with Jude Caravan and Anna-Marie, and with earlier in the day with Sarah McCrum. I've also done them. And the systemic constellation work that we did today was on unitive justice. It was quite fascinating. And what we discovered was the differences between the human forms of justice and natural justice and Gaia's justice. And it sort of made us realize the different relationships that we have with that. And has everybody on this call participated in a systemic constellation? I look at you all and I think most of you have. Have you done one, Raza? Have you done systemic constellations?
One.
One.
Just to get a taste of it, yeah. Just
Yes.
one.
Yes. And you, Gail, you've done them? No. Oh, we have to introduce you. Gail, this is a super duper way of scaffolding.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're discussing, I see another person has come in named Car Soper. That is a name I don't recognize either. So I would ask them if they would turn on their video. And
Hi.
hi.
Hi, sorry to interrupt and to come late like that.
That's all right. So Car, tell me, can you introduce yourself and tell me, remind me, where have we met and what attracted you to this kitchen party? Where are you located and what is your work?
Okay, so a friend of mine forwarded me on your event, and her name is Martha Gallahue, and Martha Gallahue works at the United Nations, formerly works at the United Nations, and a group of people that I know that work together in a meditation process, in a meditation vigil on the Sustainable Development Goals. And Martha passed this on because the work that we are doing is energizing and supporting the network of groups connected, supporting the new economy. So we're called the group of the one economy. Yeah. So it's a little weird how I got here. So I'm really sorry if I'm interrupting, but I was so curious.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you for giving us that background. And you're not the only one who has a UN connection on the call. Could lean over to John Clausen and he would probably give you a handshake and maybe tell the rest of us how he's connected there. John and I know each other from Findhorn Eco Village where I live, and sometimes John comes and visits. But he is also, if I recall, been a long time connection of Findhorn's activities to the UN. John, do you want to share?
Yeah, well, I'm very good friends with Martha, going back to the 1990s. And she's been a close colleague. She's been to Findhorn. And she joins our meditations. And she was a co-founder or founding member of the Spiritual Caucus at the UN back in 2000. So we still see her meditations. We're having a retreat this summer. She'll join us virtually. And
yeah, John, I did recognize your face and your name, I think. And I think they're the only person, but thank you for saying that.
Yeah, some of your group with the SDGs come to the Spiritual Caucus. So I've represented Gaia Education and Findhorn and Global Eco Village Network at the UN for a long, long time. And I'm part of a group now that calls itself the Unitive Cluster, which is Jude's part of that, which is a thematic cluster of NGOs affiliated with the UN that has recognition. We're recognized by the UN, and we submitted a couple of proposals for a side event at the High Level Political Forum next month, and they were rejected. So we'll probably put them on as a virtual event, which is there'll be legitimate events, but they'll be considered parallel events instead of side events. So side events is where they give you a room, and parallel events that you organize your own, and then they'll publicize it for you. At any rate, one of the proposals was on living cities. And so, if we had had more time, I would have thought of, connecting you with being a possible content provider for that event. And so there's all this overlap, and I can show you the proposal that we put in that wasn't accepted. And I think we're still going to put it on, but I'm not sure yet. So yeah, the UN, I mean, two things I'll bring up that are just germane to some of the discussions here. Marilyn, you described your frustrations with, such a large percentage of the world just behaving so they want to get on with business as usual without awareness of what's needed and the crisis that we're in. And I was expressing my frustrations around that to a group that I work with very closely called Intuition and Money that we meet once a year at this gathering. And so a good friend, Jenny Ladd, gave me a book. He said, "Oh, read this. It's called I Want a Better Crisis." I don't know if any of you ever heard of that. It's something like navigating the climate change with grief, hope, and gallows humor. So it's a guy who he just came out, there's lots of books on this sort of thing, but he puts his finger right on that situation and then goes into all the different levels of, how you deal with it when you're an engaged activist. So, yes, the UN and the SDGs, and I'm reading another book that I just ordered after hearing an amazing interview. A guy wrote this book called UN as Leviathan. And it's about, UN and global governments, or UN 3.0. It's by a UN insider who's ran some departments in the UN, and he now runs a department in a university on UN studies. And it's looking at, a kind of realistic assessment of how the UN needs to change from an insider's point of view to meet the challenges of the world. And he's saying that, on one level, the UN is, embraces a culture of mediocrity. And he explains how that's so, and he gives a lot of the cons of the UN and a lot of pros. And some of the pros are that they have these baby steps toward global governance in the way that they manage fisheries and a few other specific areas where they have brought together the world. But that the SDGs are something he's really skeptical about. He thinks that the SDGs have empowered governments unnecessarily at the expense of civil society, and that they're an unrealistic kind of pretend collaboration when they're not really requiring any collaboration, and it's governments who are the ones who are signing on, and it's not governments who should be empowered to do this. It should be a citizens' initiative that the UN and the governments are, agents to help facilitate. But he feels it's the other way around, and that they need to be rethought, and that in a way that gives the citizens of the world more of the power and responsibility, and the UN would be supportive of that rather than seizing control and trying to run them. Anyway, I'm just throwing out those thoughts. I want to.
And what do you think?
What do I think?
About those SDGs, just like what you just said. What do you think?
Oh, I think the SDGs are huge. They're noble ambition, but they're hugely problematic in how they're presented in the ways that they're fragmented. And so a number of us who are working in those areas are trying to present a more holistic perspective of the ways in which they're interconnected. But I think people have to come at it from a different level of consciousness, a true understanding of regenerative consciousness, or what it takes to look at it from not a quantitative metric point of view where you can measure every result, but you've got to understand that they're all interconnected, and to put them in these silos the way they've done it so that they can be measured quantitatively and addressing symptoms is not going to be ultimately effective.
I think, John, it's really interesting. Another person I've seen today already was Sally Bogali of the Gaia Education as it's reinventing itself. And so they've had a lot to do with how they reframed the SDGs in a very holistic way. And one of the ways that I've been very influenced
I was involved in that reframing.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. But I was going to say that one of the ways that I've been convinced to hold the SDGs, and my initial reaction was rather dismissive. But one of the people who convinced me that that was not practical at all was Kate Raworth. And Kate Raworth is the author of Donut Economics. And her argument is, she uses the SDGs for the inside of her donut. So some of you were talking about donuts earlier. And so the outside is the science from the 9 earthly constraints that the Rockstrom research has revealed. But she said, you know, the reason why I choose in many circumstances to use the SDGs is because 160 odd governments of the world basically agreed to them. Therefore, it's very practical for me to go in and say, well, let's talk about an economics around something that you've already had input and agreed and are using. And I thought, this is a very good argument. You have to meet people where they are and take them where they can go or where you can nudge them forward. So I think they have some value.
I think that's true. And what I was sort of alluding to was that this gentleman who wrote this book provided kind of an insightful perspective on the nature of those agreements. And he was very skeptical of them and how they came about and how they supposedly engaged all of civil society to come up with it. But I'm not going to go there because I just think he provides some information that would be useful to engage with. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to share it with the SDG Thought Leader Synergy Circle, you know, of the ELs.
Yeah, that's great. I was just, one of the conferences when I was at Eco City Builders conference last week in London, I went to a workshop afterwards that was using Puran Desai's One Planet framework, and he was responsible prior to developing the One Planet for a lot of the input into the SDGs when he was doing the bioregional work with his wife. So I am seeing to our kitchen party a few more new faces. So Cara, thank you for engaging with John and introducing yourself through the UN. You might find other ways that you can connect through Integral City. I'd love to have a conversation with you after our kitchen party and see if there's any other ways that you could see that we could be working together. But I see that we have Leah, we have Catherine, and we have Angela Atwell. Wow, we have a whole bunch of people. Angela, I think you've actually been waiting in the background longer than the other two. And in the kitchen party, I've just basically asked people to introduce themselves to start with. Where are you located? And what drew you to this kitchen party? Anything connected with Integral City? Angela, unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Good. It's so great to see you. I am normally from Boston, Massachusetts, but I've recently just landed at the park at Findhorn Foundation, and I have wanted to attend something like this that you've put on, Marilyn, but haven't been able to before. I'm involved with some other communities. I don't know, you may have known Terry Patton. I did. And actually the New Republic of the Heart. But I will tell, why did I come today? I'm an educator, and I also am connected to an organization called World Education Fellowship that is at the UN. So I'm just here as a listener, and thank you so much for putting this on. And by the way, I'm going to ask John, so I'm still getting organized here. I've just landed. I'm going to be here 6 weeks, partly at Clooney. May I just ask for your phone number, John, because I have some practical questions. I'll look in the chat, okay?
Thanks, Angela. Lovely to meet you this way. And you're most welcome. It's a kitchen party, so anything can happen. And all the best parties happen in the kitchen, right?
Exactly.
So I'm going to invite Leah to tell us where you are and how long have you been connected with this nefarious organization, Integral City, and what are you cooking up these days?
Well, I'm in Seattle, Washington, in the US, where we're having a month that we call Junuary. And I've been with Integral City stuff since I think sometime in 2012. So that's quite a while. And I guess the most relevant thing that I could say about what I'm doing is that I the editor of Enlivening Edge magazine, which is helping people who are reinventing the world of business and organizations to be more human and more conscious. And our interface with Marilyn has been through some articles that she's written for us. Enlivening Edge also is now offering an online social community of people who are organizational innovators and transformers and reinventors. And we have a series of semi-monthly conversations as well. So
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. I'm actually, you mentioned that I've done some articles for you for Enlivening Edge. Well, I just wrote my editorial for the newsletter for the solstice. And I think that is something that you and I have a shared interest in. Earlier, Roberto Hinesteros was online, and he also mentioned about creating the network of networks. So I know that's something that you've been really fascinated with and have done lots of system nudging. So I was provoked to write this editorial in the newsletter by a conversation that brought me into beyond cooperation and collaboration, or beside them. What does co-opting have to do with evolution anyway? So here it is. You can have it, and everybody else. Tell me if you want to explore it further.
Thank you. I'm here today mainly just to see what good stuff is happening in the world and to get inspired.
Okay, well, stick around. Lots of it has already happened. Hey, Catherine, it's so nice to have you join us. And we know each other from a couple of different places, but I'll let you say where you connected with Integral City and what brought you to the kitchen party today.
So I'm Catherine Alexander. I'm in Spokane, Washington, and I do agree with Leah that it is January, very much so. I turned the heat on today for the first time in a while. And I think we, well, I can't remember. I do know that we've known each other through Humanity Rising, but I have a feeling there was a connection before that. Maybe you're wiser than I am on that. But
I think that's where it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been very enthralled with your work with cities and stuff. And that's part of the reason why I came. I've been working with my city, Spokane, for about 8 years. And I'm shifting my work from being very neighborhood oriented to trying to get the city to institutionalize soil regeneration as part of their Waterwise program. We live on an aquifer, and if every resident of the city was living on live soil, that would make a huge difference in terms of the water going through the dirt and into the aquifer where we can use it, as opposed to running off. We've just spent billions of dollars doing storm drains, huge storm drains throughout the city. And while there might be a use for that, and there is occasionally, it really needs to go down, not into the river, it really needs to go down. And it'll only do that when the soil is alive. So that's every resident's issue. It's not something that the city itself can do a whole lot about. So I'm sort of starting to take tentative steps to figure out how to make that happen. So that's been my project here. I also, if I can take just a minute to advertise a bit, I'm also doing a presentation in Shannon MacArthur's room, the one we are, Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on nature's ethics. So
beautiful. If you'd like, Catherine, feel free to put the link for that in the chat, and anybody else can come if you can find it.
Get it.
Yeah. Well, maybe as we're chatting, you can find it in the background. Yeah, we're all multitaskers, I'm sure. Yeah. So as a kitchen party, we've had people flowing through the room. Some have left, and other of you are arriving just now. But after the introductions, I just am inviting sharing. So how have you used, or are you curious to use some of the frameworks that are most popular about from Integral City, like the 4 voices, or what I've called it today, Care Ma Cooking School. How are you caring for self, others, place, and planet? but I've also introduced it as Care Ma Yoga, and the caring for the intention of caring for yourself and others and place and planet at the beginning of the day can be reviewed at the end of the day. And I've been always inspired by Aurobindo, who said that we should have a karma yoga. But when I realized that the Care Ma Yoga was available for us easily, then I do encourage everyone to use it. Maybe you have been using it, or maybe you'd be curious to try it out. Or maybe you've got a question for somebody else on the call. Just open your mic and let us know. Joan, I'm going to invite you. Joan has been somebody who I've called an evolutionary amplifier for Integral City for many years. And Joan, any comments or observations that you'd like to make? Because you've been here since even before I arrived in our reunion kitchen.
Thanks, Marilyn. I was just thinking about the kitchen and the kitchen table in our home. And it's changed because now there's 3 young men, all in their 20s, and they have different voices. And the mom and the dad and the grandmother. And how that seems to be a lot of my tending right now is what are we saying at the kitchen table and what are we not saying? And how to listen more carefully for what wants to be said. So it's a new time for me because I'm accustomed to being quite engaged in other activities, but I'm more focused now on home. What is home about right now? How to really be present to different opinions with the young men, because they're very vocal and they're not learned yet in conversation. It's more of a yelling match. But I found a way even yesterday to think about what is it I want to say to one of my grandsons, and it was simply just he's a brilliant mind. He's very scientific. He presents things that at the table people just kind of go ooh. So it was just this, I thought I just need to mention to him that people have different ways of processing information. And that's sometimes when he's talking about these really crunchy things, for a person that processes it different than he does, that almost makes people sick. And he could really hear it. He said, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that, Nan. So my world right now is quite at our home and kitchen table. And there's times when I think, oh, I wish I was engaged in this and engaged in that. And it's like, that's not where my energy is right now. But it seems important to be really present, grounded in my home and whatever else is going on. And these young men that are so vocal and big, their energy goes all over the place. And my impulse in the past would have been trying to control that. Not now. It's like, okay, let's have it. So that's my tending right now.
That's beautiful. And what I really appreciate, Joan, is not only you bringing in your family and home, but also the energy of young men, of both the younger generation and more of the masculine that isn't on this call. Because one of the things that's happened with Integral City over the years is that we seem to have attracted more feminine energy. Doesn't mean men and women, but the energy is something that some of you know, Karen Downs, what she calls FemQ. So thank you for bringing both those qualities in, Joan. I think it's when you were speaking, I was being reminded about what Gail was talking about with James Bridle's ways of being. So ways of being shift, I think, as we grow up, as we interact with different people. And that's what the ways of being book made me think about was how do we manage to connect with people in different ways through different epistemologies of knowing, but also of mirroring or reflecting or connecting. Yeah, so thanks for that story. I see that there's another new person who's arrived in the room with a very colorful screen, and that's Melina Angel. Melina, where are you visiting us from?
Marlene. Sorry, I am kind of moving around my house, so I am not putting my video. I will just go to say hello from here. Okay.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Hey,
Okay.
beautiful.
How are you? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm having a wonderful day today with this kitchen table reunion. And I just haven't known whether I would be sitting here with one or two people, but we've had a lovely flow of people through the kitchen. And we've been asking them, well, where are you located? How did you connect up with Integral City or Maryland? And what are you cooking up today? Whether that's real food or just ideas or plans or intentions. How about you?
Yeah, I thank you, Marlene, for convening this call. I am calling from Bogota, Colombia, South America. And when I entered the call, I was looking for everybody. I was just had this screen full of faces, and my son said, "Hey, they're all the same. They are exactly the same kind of." faces. And I was like, oh, they might be European, North European. And we laugh because normally when we are at the other side of the world, we see each other as very, very similar. Huh? So it's very interesting for me to share with you from this tropical, complex, and biodiverse and cultural diverse space. I just arrived from Costa Rica. This is the first time I'm living in a city in the last 8 years, but I have been a little bit in cities in the last 20 years, but mostly in the countryside. And for me to come back to a city, especially a huge city as Bogota, means that life put me here. So I'm kind of listening what the territory, what the bioregion is telling me, and why this territory brought me here. So I started to listen that there is this huge impulse of life for the creeks and the rivers to come out from the tunnels that they are imprisoned. So I'm preparing several projects for the city to bring back the rivers, and we are working with a friend of us called named Elias Catan from Mexico. He's an urbanist, and he has been working with the complete street concept. And we are having conversation with the botanical garden, who is in charge of all the trees of the city, and with other entities in the city, just in order to see if we can start this process for environmental education in the cities, and trying to make urbanism a little bit more powerful to bring back rivers and biodiversity to the cities. So that's my one of the conversations now. So yeah, thanks.
Beautiful. Well, you and Catherine Alexander should connect. She's talking about regenerating soil for the cities. And at Melina, also, I just came back from the Eco City Builders Summit conference in London. And I don't know if you ever knew Richard Register, who was the architect who started Eco City Builders. He was in the San Francisco area, and his whole story was that he started to daylight the creeks and rivers there. So it is really powerful. The other story I know about the project that you're doing is the daylighting of the river in Seoul in Korea, in South Korea. And I've seen many stories about that related to sort of my looking for environmental indicators. And as they daylighted the rivers there, it totally changed the city because they took down a whole a set of automobile overpasses, like totally changed the city. And I learned that when I was on a panel at that point in time where we were looking for the most sustainable cities in the world. Bogota certainly was nominated, but so was Seoul, much to my surprise. And one of the indicators was a snail, the health of a particular snail in the river. And they knew that when that returned, that was actually showing the well-being of the biodiversity and the ecosystem. So if you like, I can look that up and I'll send it to you. But
yeah, please.
It's very exciting, very exciting. And I was expecting you would be in Costa Rica, but you've returned to Bogota.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us in our kitchen reunion. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah.
Marilyn, I just want to mention to Melina the Zoom that you brought on Humanity Rising. I forget with
Edward.
With Edward. It was like
with Edward
in that particular presentation, all the energies were balanced. I was like, as soon as it started to be presented, I could feel this big relief in my body because it was like balanced, the masculine and the feminine, and the thought that had gone in before your presentation, so it just unfolded. It was beautiful. So I just want this opportunity to thank you and all of you in that presentation particularly.
Thank you very much, Joanne, for bringing that back. You announced a wave of energy coming back from that space. So thank you for that.
Beautiful. And Melina, it's very interesting to hear the comment of your son about looking at the faces all the same. So some of you may remember that when Beth and I were doing the Cities Rising for a Regenerative World on Humanity Rising, that Beth and I decided that what we did not want to have was a whole week's worth of small screens on Zoom that had, with all due respect, white men. And so we even went so far as to look at Donella Meadows. If the world were 100 people, what would it look like? And we went and used her statistics and tried very hard for every day that the panels of our Zoom looked had the same variation as those 100 people. And it's still a challenge because I know as I'm talking and working with, say, people in South Africa, I can say this because of the open conversation here at our kitchen table, is I sometimes say to people, you know, I love your expertise and I would love for you to be part of the interview or part of the project, but you don't look right. I need somebody who looks completely different than you because I need the representation of a different part of the world, a world that both looks different and experiences things differently. And we need to do that. We need to actually be proactively doing that. So I just, I'm reminded, Melina, of that story from your sharing. Yeah. Although I'm very happy with everybody who's turned up for the kitchen party, but who knows who else might come? Yeah. Or who else would you invite to make a difference of what we look like on the screen? Yeah.
That's been one of the joys for me just of being on Zoom, is that it's truly worldwide. So I've been able to get to know and hear stories from every place in the world. So it's really, really a thrill.
Yeah, thank you. So Leah, any projects that you're working on that you haven't mentioned that you've been tracking for all these years that have had some kind of influence, since Leah was the first person who came forward in 2012 when this was sort of in pre-Zoom world. It's hard to imagine, and that's not spelled P-R-U-S-M-E, it's pre-Z00, the pre-Zoom world, where we were doing our e-lab, our Integral City e-lab. And Leah came forward and offered to be the support person. And out of that, there was about 12 people in our what became known as the DG team for Integral City, the Divine Gaians. We called ourselves Gaians Human Hive Integrators. And Leah was just a wonderful lead for that. So do you have any memories of that, Leah, or things that you carried forward from there that you're still using?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The conference that that you put on.
We put on.
We put on. Was I think a very fruitful gathering. It created a lot of connections that have persisted in and grown in various ways through the years. It's what got me into Enlivening Edge, partly because that's one of the places I intersected with George Pure, who invited me into Enlivening Edge when it was just getting started. So I feel intertwined with that. Certainly through the years, the core group, the core constellation group, as you sometimes call us, that definitely includes Joan here. We wrote a chapter in a book together. We've put on conference presentations together. It's been very rich, and it deepened my appreciation of the importance of cities. There's so much identification with an emphasis on country, but when you mentioned to me that cities are the largest voluntary assemblies of human beings, that was pretty impactful for me. That helped shape the things that I've been doing since then, because I'm big on voluntary, as distinguished from enforced or whatever. But countries are defined by force, but cities are voluntary assemblies. So,
and of course, what fascinated me from a systems perspective was cities were visible from space, whereas nations are generally not. And so that's what woke me up to the fractal nature of cities. So, yeah. And, you know, I still, these days, even within the integral community, the focus is generally, how do we develop individuals? How do we develop teams? What can we do with organizations? And how will we develop our nations? And I go, just a minute. There's something in between the organization and the nation. And it's the city and its ecoregion, not just the built city itself. So I'm still trying to make that case, still trying to point out that consciousness and culture is probably going to be, well, if we think about the AI that's been mentioned, I think that's going to be the saving grace of the human as we develop AI. So kitchen party, people. I notice that we're actually moving now into the last 25 minutes that I've allowed for our kitchen party. So I'm just going to open up a few more questions. I'd love to know, what are you passionate about? What are you hoping for, what you'd like to see as the best of what the human hive has to offer? I wanted to also mention in that same breath that there's been a new endeavor that's emerged out of Integral City, and that's called Living Cities Earth. So John, we definitely would be interested in that proposal, because Living Cities Earth is realizing my dream that Integral City not just be a framework for individual cities, but how would we connect all the cities in the world through kind of a mycelial web? And that's emerging. Last year at about this time, 6 of us got together, and we're looking to see what is the impact of actually the Ukrainian-Russian war going to have on Europe, because by then we could see there was 7 million refugees that had come out of the country and 7 million people displaced inside. So we just like knew that was going to change Europe, if not the rest of the world. So out of that, we imagined something that came from the Russian translation of my book. Integral City didn't translate so well into Russian, so it got called Living Cities in Russia. And there's still a very active organization called Living Cities Russia. So when we all looked at ourselves, the 6 of us, and said, well, what are we going to, we sense that there's a new organization that wants to happen. What will we call it? And what came up naturally was Living Cities Earth. So I put the website link in there, and we're starting to just move. We've moved from 6 people to over 60 now, and we're worldwide. And I would love to invite everybody who's on this call to become friends of Living Cities Earth. And there's so many ways that you can imagine contributing to this, because almost every person who's come on this call is come from a different city. We haven't all, we might come from the same country, but I think every person who's come on is actually located in a different city. One of my colleagues in Living Cities Earth, Lev Gordon, who lives very close to Leah, actually, so you could go knock on his door these days and go visit him. You know, he likes to have big targets. So he said, what we're going to be doing in Living Cities Earth is influencing 10,000 cities, which he says is about the number of cities in the world. And that what we're doing, thanks to Alexander Laszlo's wonderful turn of phrase, is humaning well together so that we create healthy, happy cities in harmony with nature. And by now, we have celebrated the Earth Day Summit. We're running this week with the World Unity Week. We have a whole series that we're actually creating as a Global Happy Cities Summit. And that 99 days between the World Unity Week and the World Peace Week, we're running Living Cities Marathon. So we'd invite you to just go to the website and you can find out all the details and register for that, because I just love to see you all there. So that's my dessert that I'm bringing for our kitchen table consumption. What's everybody else up to that you'd like to share with us, or you have questions of one another? What you bring to the dessert, this kitchen table reunion?
Well, Marilyn, if I can, I really feel that the work that I've been doing with Earth ethics and Earth values fits right in, because it gives a context for decision making, if you will, and a focus. One of the things about ethics and values is that they're, according to Jane Jacobs, and I've been carrying her work forward for 20 some odd years. She was the first person that I ever knew that talked about values as systems.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important because systems have certain characteristics. And when you understand that, you can see how important it is to know those values of systems, because we see the pieces and parts in each system, and we think they're all equally relevant and wonderful and delicious. And we pick and choose the ones we want, and we corrupt the systems in doing so. So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about on Friday. But I think it's really important to understand that in working with cities, because we're working with people who are further along or not as far along in this journey as we are, and who might carry some of those old habits and patterns. And being able to recognize those really helps, I think, when you start working on collaboration, to be sure that you're focused on life, not on being safe or being effective, which are the two other systems. And those both have their own contexts, and there's nothing wrong with either one, but they have different intents and purposes. And if we're focused on life, then everything shifts. Safety becomes different. Effectiveness becomes different. It's framed in a different way. And it helps you to see that. So that's what I would offer for dessert.
That's really delicious, Catherine. Thank you so much. And your offering of life for me, when you're looking at these other values or issues that so many cities, including eco-villages where I live, get conflicted or tense around, they don't go to a superordinate goal. And the most superordinate goal, I think, is life. Yeah.
Yes.
So absolutely.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful
what
dessert.
the earth does is life.
Yeah. It's life. Thank you so
that's
much.
her expertise.
Yeah.
Catherine, I went to the page that you posted and I didn't see the nature's ethics presentation.
Oh,
so
yeah, she didn't give me access to the link. It's covered. So you have to go down to the room, which is the one we are.
yes, I'm on that page, room description.
And if you scroll down to 4 p.m.
No, there isn't any 4 p.m. on the 23rd. Oh, wait a minute.
You have to sometimes go down to the bottom of the page and say more.
And sometimes you have to do more. Yeah, load more.
Yeah, load more. I didn't see that. Thank you.
Okay.
We have a never-ending supply of dessert. Load more. And so I see that as we're talking about dessert, who turns up in the room but Peter? And I suspect it's Peter Walkers. And Peter has been a long-time member of the Divine Gaians. So Peter, it is you. Welcome. Welcome to the kitchen party.
Hello.
So how are you doing today? Just let everybody know where you are and what are you up to and what are you cooking up?
Oh, so this call coincided with I just joined a running group, and running times and that's one of the things that really makes me feel alive. So I think like I should just go running. So I just did a 10K with a group of people, and I don't know if you can see them. So I'm in the middle of Amsterdam. There's a lot of life happening here. Over there's the people I was running with, and now I'm here. And very nice to see you all.
Very nice to see you, and I'm very impressed you're not even out of breath.
No, that's why I do it, right?
So Peter, you're involved in so many things. I just introduced everyone to not just Integral City Conversations, but also Living Cities Earth. What kinds of things are you cooking up and what projects are you working on these days?
Sorry, I missed, as you can hear, there's quite a lot of traffic here. Could you please repeat the
yes. Yeah, what are you cooking up these days with Living Cities Earth, if not with Integral City, where I know that you've been teaching architecture students? I actually went to the Association of Architects in London last week, so I remembered you while I was there.
Yeah, one thing that's maybe interesting to mention is that we're working with a couple of people in the organization on mapping, so there's so much going on, and also a lot of, let's say, the whole ecosystem, as a lot of people are talking about it, and no one really knows how big it is and who is part of it and what the connections are. And there's also a lot of people trying to map that out, and we're trying to bring together a couple of these mapping efforts to ensure interoperability between the maps so that we can get a more complete overview of the system. So that's one of the things that we're working on. And in Living Cities Earth, what I'm busy with at the moment is to translate the whole, let's say, the vision of Living Cities Earth, or the maybe the energy of it, into images and words and moving image. Together with Martin.
Great, yeah, and I know that you made one of my favorite videos for Integral City, the maps that shape-shift into one another. So it'd be wonderful to see something like that happen for Living Cities Earth. So thank you.
I think it will, and yeah, and for me the maps also. I guess about how this might also relate to the mapping of the ecosystem. How Integral City 5 maps could provide, let's say, a coordinate system to make sense of everything all the information we're collecting. So let's talk about that at some point now.
Okay, that's beautiful. I know there are many mapping efforts, so the mapping efforts seems to be at least something that more than one person should be having a look at. Even earlier, we had on the call Roberto Hinestrosa in Mexico, and he's been doing that kind of thing for quite a while.
Sounds good. Yeah, I should be in touch with him.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Drew's network maps?
I don't think so. No. Could you?
I will see if I can put that in the chat.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Catherine. I think Melina has probably been involved in mapping efforts as well, if I recall.
Well, during the Bioregional Regeneration Summit, we created this huge mapping from all the participants. Well, not all, but you know, like 70% of participants. Like we are talking about 800 people. And there are organizations and mappings and connections, and so it's available for everybody. I should find the link somewhere, but I am in my phone, so I will send it to you for everyone.
And is that the link? Is that linked through Ben Roberts?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been in touch with him, and yeah. So that's great. 800 people, that can produce an awful lot of map.
Yeah.
Peter, I'm sorry, I can't do the link. I could do a file, but I can't see a way to add a file. Sometimes I can do that in Zoom, but this one doesn't seem to allow me to do that. So
yeah, maybe you can send it to me later on email or something.
If you put your email in the chat, I will do that.
I'll do that. Thanks.
That I can do. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Marlene, I really liked your question about how do we imagine cities, and it is kind of a sensation that I have been having the last 6 months that I've been in Bogota, which is what's it in English? The dandelion.
Yes.
Coming from concrete. From a concrete crack, and it seems that like for me, the perspective of, you know, Bogota is a city that has mountains at the east, and they are protected, and the city is always kind of the dispute between the forest and the mountain and the city wanting to come over the forest, and I was trying to understand how we can coming from with life from the cracks of the system, and to start to be doing this like a river regeneration and trees and biodiversity spots, and using the connectivity, but it is kind of regeneration coming from the last place where we can see life, you know, like a putting regeneration in the center of our revitalization as people, in order to bring back every street, each street at a time, and in that way, letting nature coming from all these trees and all these people and all this connectivity, and bring it back like a, you know, like a buckle, you know, not just the fighting, but just the emerging of life from the concrete.
Yes, that's beautiful. You know, when I was in London last week, I went to an allotment right down, I don't know if you know London well enough to be at the Barbican, but the Barbican is right in the center of London. So it's right close to London City Hall, and there's they made it as it was a 1960s development, and so there was a group of residents who managed to take what was basically becoming a brownfield and turned it into a set of allotments. Who knew there would be allotments in the center of London? But they were tending to growing just you know, whatever vegetables or food they could, and taking responsibility for that. So I love the idea of a dandelion. I was with one of the other groups I was with in Hungary, called the conference they called was Constructing Consciousness. And since then, on our Signal group, somebody had taken a dandelion puff, and we have these photographs of them all over the world now, and sort of just thinking, okay, that's the symbol of this group. And since we were together in a very love as consciousness way. We're thinking this is a symbol of the fractal zillions of love that could be actually shared in the world, just a dandelion pup. So I think, you know, a lot of people get kind of stuck on the built environment of the city, but there's so much life and imagination. And when we open it up to non-human life, then it becomes, it has to become an oasis of life. And I'm very curious as we move forward. We're going to right size cities in ways that enable more life to happen for all beings, not just human beings. Yeah.
Marilyn, thank you for naming London, and I want to share something that two things that that I think that will connect and that will make some magic here. The first thing is that I just been in London like for 10 hours in a yeah,
Heathrow in the airport,
and I decided to go to see the Thamesis River, you know, like I was like, okay, let's go to downtown. So I went there, and it wasn't, I was amazed that I haven't any access to the river. Like I was looking for, and at some point I crossed the river, I crossed the bridge, and there was like a park. So I went into that park, and I don't know the names, and I made a prayer. I definitely went into a little spot with trees, and I make this huge prayer of life coming back to the heart of British people. That was my prayer. And I led an offering there, and then I ran around a little bit, and I was amazed to see Gandhi in front of the parliament. And there is something that happened lately that I got to know that I mean, I was in discussions exactly with Elias from RCN about river regeneration, and he was talking about Seoul, and he was talking about Japan, Nagasaki, and Tokyo, and blah blah blah. And he made, and I said, well, what about Europe? And he said, well, Madrid is doing very well, doing things on river, but London is very, 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 very strange what is going on there. And he told me that even if in the Thamesis started to have a recovery of the waters and so on from many years ago, the decades ago, the fishes haven't returned to the river yet. So people started to really be worried about that, and started to make more laboratories, like tests around many substances. And there is, of course, anticonceptive, because everything that is drained and eliminated by the urine, it goes to the waters, right? Yeah. So, but there wasn't that amount to, you know, just avoid the prolific fish return that they were expecting. So they started to check for other things, and they discovered that there is not fishes in the Thamesis River because it is full of cocaine. Wow. From Colombia. So we are the first producers of cocaine in the world. That's why we have an internal armed conflict here. And it seems that London is one of our best clients.
Customers. Isn't that a poignant story of how interconnected we are? What goes around comes around, right? We have one planet. You know, when I was in the Integral Europe conference, the workshop that we did was to take the Karma yoga and try an experiment. Usually I build it up. So people start with themselves, and then caring for self means you care for others, means we can care for our places and care for the planet. But in this workshop, we started the other way around, because I was curious, if we took the planet as an overview effect, would it impact how you relate to your places and people and yourself? And it did. It changed how we did that. So this sense of how we're all interconnected is so important. Thank you for sharing that. It's a shocking story, but it's a wake-up call, and to be told by somebody from Colombia.
Yeah, and it is amazing how we can think regeneration in cities by understanding the addiction that we have to the productive system, because cocaine is used just to produce, you know, like a work, go. So it's kind of, if we are able to regenerate ourselves into other kind of being in the world, in the other moods, and we help those spaces around, especially for the British community.
Oh, look, yes. Thank you, Melina.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. So our kitchen party, it's just like, you know, being in the kitchen. Where did the time go? It's already, we have only 2 minutes before the end of our kitchen party as it's scheduled. So I just want to invite a quick checkout. I would love to know, should we do this again at Christmas time? Should we have another reunion? And the second thing, yes, you can do, Liz, shall we do another reunion? We can do a thumb vote. Yes, thumbs up. Yes. Okay, and then let's just do a checkout. The checkout is, what delicious morsel from our kitchen party are you taking forward into your day or your evening? And I'm going to call on Joan to start, and then she can call on the next person. So we'll just call on each other. Joan, what delicious morsel are you taking with you?
Well, to be quite honest with you, this interconnectedness, I mean, I know that deeply, and yet there's something very profound in a story that says, look at what's happened here. So it makes the holding of the care, and then it makes it real in terms of see this, something very tangible. So I'm taking all the I just am very happy to have been here and have all of the information that you're sharing. It's deeply hopeful in a very grounded way. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Joan. And who do you call on next?
I call on Car.
So I might have manifested that, because I was thinking, what's my closing? And my closing was something that Joan said, in that being home is sometimes like the best we can do, you know, for the world, the planet, and everything. And that when I am at home, I can cook and I can feed other people and my family around me, and my 3 20-year-olds, young men, and that I can contribute and nourish the planet and make a healthier planet and cities by influencing them and cooking and eating and breaking bread together. And it has to be simple sometimes. So thank you for that. And it's really nice to meet you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. Who do you choose as next for this checkout?
Well, I choose Rasa.
I somehow knew it. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, because I have some issues with technology. Yeah, it's really, really nice to be here. So I think for me, it's just sort of inspiration. It's more life energy that I can kind of I wouldn't want to say draw from, but I don't know. I think just aliveness, right? Makes me more kind of, you know, I don't even know the word for that, but yeah, it's energizing. I guess that's what the word is. So I'm not sure if that's very good for the night, but
No, energy and aliveness are always good.
I don't know how I'm gonna sleep. But yeah, it was really inspiring and really nice to hear more, to reconnect to this space. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Who do you choose next? You can take her into your dreams.
Yeah. All right. So I'll go with Melina then.
Thank you. My last words is awakening the vital force.
Thank you. I think you personify that. Melina, who do you choose next?
Angela.
Okay. Muy bien. Gracias. Okay. I just wanted to say that my passion at the moment is the education of mothers, infants, and young children. And it connects with what everyone is saying about aliveness, creativity. And I feel this power that our wisdom brings to caring. Thank you for this care, Ma, because caring for the young will create sustainability for the planet. And I thank you for everything that everyone is doing. I'm feeling a lot of gratitude and a lot of joy. Thank you very much, Marilyn. And now, you know, I'm on the telephone, and so I'm not seeing. Let's see. Catherine, you go ahead.
Yes, that's good. Good choice. Catherine, you're on mute. I mean, you need to unmute.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and thank you. What I'm taking away are stories, like Rasa said, that's very inspirational for me. It's I love hearing what other people are doing and thinking, and I'm really hopeful that the map I share will be useful to Peter, because I'm excited with what that guy does. And I haven't experienced it yet. I'm working towards something I've got in my back pocket to bring forward when I can. So it'll be fun to hear if he finds it useful. So it's just great. Thank you, Marilyn, so much for pulling us all together. It's really, really wonderful.
I'm so glad you joined us. So, Catherine, are you going to choose Leah, who's the last person?
Yes, I will, indeed.
All right. Catherine, I would like to get your information about mapping too, because I'm always running into ambitious souls who are trying to map the ecosystem of next stage organizations. And having seen what those efforts run into,
yeah,
I'm no longer so interested in doing that, or even thinking that's possible. But nonetheless, the younger generation always tilts at that windmill. Somehow that windmill is very attractive. Anyway, yes, it's
so Leah, put your email in the chat and I'll send it to you.
Yeah. I think for me too, that it's the connections that happen today, whether they will reach a manifested fruition or not in the near future. Nonetheless, the connections have been established. Enlivening Edge exists to create connections. So I'm feeling quite aligned with the purposes here, and I really enjoyed hearing what people are up to and what their challenges are, and yes, it's very broadening to get out of my little niche and very reassuring to be aware of all the good things that are happening in the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah.
Marilyn, you're next.
Yes, and oh, I just feel like I've had a feast, and I've just been so delighted at everyone who's turned up, at the nice flow of people. It's just felt like a real kitchen party, and I hope that we do it again, because I saw enough thumbs up that I will quite happily call us back together. And I've had a request for the Karma Yoga. I've written several blogs about it, and if you particularly want me to direct you to that, then just send me an email and I'll direct you specifically to it, because that's not something that all my gray cells can touch at this point in time, and make sure that I give you the right connection. But thank you for a really, really delicious time together. I feel filled up and can't wait till the next time. So happy solstice, everyone. Enjoy the newsletter. Please
Happy
feel free.
solstice.
Happy
Thank
solstice.
you. Happy solstice, everyone.
Happy solstice.
Bye.
Thank you, Marlene.
And I have recorded it, so I will post the recording. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank
Bye.
you.
Perfect.
Bye-bye.
Righty.